Going to call to order the meeting of the Economic and Development Committee of the Town Council of Bridgewater's Town Council. Do we do anything like we don't support the flag or say anything or anything? Just
No, but it's being recorded so they can.
okay. The meeting is being recorded for anyone. And I wanted to say that as of yesterday, the state has allowed all online meetings to not require an in-person account here. It can all be done online. Before, it's always been we had to have at least two of us for a three-person meeting. We had to have at least two of us. You always had to have a quorum there. But the state has changed it so that people can do it all online if people are interested in doing that. But I would say that. And so beginning the meeting, we're going to, having called it to order, we are called to order, right?
Yes,
Okay. And to approve the minutes of our last two meetings. So have you had time to read them, look over them?
I have.
June 17th meeting?
Motion approved.
Motion. I mean, sorry.
Second?
I was wrong.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's, none of us are opposed. And then June 24th meeting,
Motion approved.
Second.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go. That's done. Public comments. You're up and next.
I'm Donna Jewel, Heath Place. I know that there's an order and an ordinance on the agenda today, but I was wondering if at the end of the meeting, there'd be an opportunity to discuss just in general, the appearance of our downtown area and maybe some things that could be done short term while we're waiting for other things to take place to just spruce up while we're waiting for these ordinances. So I'd just like to know if that's possible.
Okay. I will say, yes, that is possible because I added two more things under additional discussions that were about downtown area. So I see no reason that we can't have public
Comment at that point
some
too.
comments in
Okay,
there too.
thank you.
Okay.
I'll hold it until
I'm
then.
gonna write. And from now on, I will try to always include public comments again at the end.
That'd be
I
great.
think that's, I don't know. As a person who's been in the public for a long time, it seems to me, you make your comments ahead of time and maybe we talk about them in the meeting and you'd like to say something else about it or something that we forgot to talk about. So it makes sense to me to hear from the public. So is that all right with my committee members? Sounds good to me. You, Kevin. Okay. And that's that. We'll do that from now on. I'm going to write that in here so I don't forget it. Good morning.
Good morning.
I said good morning because another counselor just joined us. I'm saying that to anybody who's watching.
Hello.
So Mark Lindy is here. He's not a member of the council, but he does represent the downtown area. All right. So
And we have.
any more public comments? Yep.
And then James Wallace at Crescent Street. Just wanted to say again, I know I mentioned this before, and I'm just so excited to see the ordinance amendment here. As I know, I've mentioned for a long time in the council meetings, I'm really worried about the, I always forget which orientation we're at, but that side of the common, especially some of those wood frame structures that are so historic and, a few more winters, we don't know if they'll be around. So I'm really happy to see this in there and hoping we can get this through and get, those property owners to start fixing that, maybe get some good tenants in town. And then I am looking forward to the conversation about the blight area. I'm just looking forward to learning from the discussion. I think I'm tentatively supportive. I like the idea that it opens up for, I think it was community development block grants. I like that it opens up the potential for us to put some of the buildings in receivership if needed for maintenance, but I just don't feel I know enough about what are really the implications of that word, especially at the state level. Does that open us up to anything? So looking forward just to hearing and learning there. Thank you.
Great. Anyway, Mark, do you have anything you want to?
No, I'm just here to,
see what's going on. Downtown is important, obviously, to all of us. It's the central core of our town, and you know, I was very involved in the former community I was in, and it still needs a lot of work. I think it's hopeful over here that we can get the work done that we need to get done. You know, the whole blighted area thing. If you go down there, I walk a lot. So if you walk a lot and you see things, some of those properties need a lot of help. I was very encouraged because on Perkins right now, there was an old house that was just sitting there vacant and awful looking. And now someone bought it, fixed it up. It's all sided. It looks absolutely beautiful. I don't know who it is, but as soon as I'm going to look up the property record, I'm going to send a note to the owner and I'm going to say, you really did a great job and brought the property back to our community to, you know, and it'll be filled. It looks like it's a three-story apartment.
Nice, nice, wonderful. That's good to know. Bring us back the information.
Well,
Okay, so, any other public comments? Then we'll move on to order, is it 0 FY 26-051? Our very first, it's too bad that we call our very first thing zero, but,
Oh,
oh,
because it's an order.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so Mary, would you like to?
Yeah, so we, being on the, downtown economic revitalization, we decided to look into declaring a wide area so we could get, grants. So to your point, James, this does not have to go under a receivership unless we ask the state. So we'd be controlling of it. At one point, I know that I believe it was Carlton Hunt that conducted inventory of the area. So you need to go around and do an inventory of the physical deterioration of buildings, abandoned properties, chronic high occupancy, turnover rates, significant decline in properties, not the properties that are good, but the properties that are, you know, being abandoned and stuff like that. And then if you know that these environments could be contaminated because they're being left like that. So we're looking to improve it. So there's a lot of grants that we could use if we, you know, go around. We can't just claim it. We have to do the inventory, send it in, and the state has to approve it. But you do have the block, Community Development Block Grant, and Massachusetts Office of Housing and Livable Communities. They will help us. So at least 25% of the properties in these areas have to have those conditions, and then we go forward with that. So first it's the inventory that we do, and then we ask for it. So I think you, I don't know if you, both you and Carlton had worked on something like this prior to it. So I think it's the only way we can really get money to fix up these areas. And it's, well, some of the grants I looked into, we can actually get help for a building inspector, like a part-time enforcement. So it will give us a little more power to fix up these buildings, encourage them, grants that we could encourage, you know, that if we buy these signs, you know, the companies will put them up and stuff like that. And we also been working with the district committee with Bill about, you know, the historical, what can be done.
So Historic District Commission that has overseen.
Yeah, so he's been up doing it. They upgraded their bylaws. So, and we have another ordinance to help enforce stuff a little bit.
That sounds good. I will say, I'm sure Carlton did his part. I think in about 2012, Peter Columbotus and I spent an entire summer, about 4 months, doing exactly that, getting us a CDBG grant. Usually with CDBG grants, you have to be cooperative with another town as well. And so we did that. We had gotten a CDBG grant a couple of years before, and our town that we were with was Middleborough, and they hadn't done it so much before either, and so it kind of just all didn't work. So then we went to work with another town that had done really, really well. And we got the grant from them. What ended up happening was we did a lot of home improvements for people who had, there's two pieces to CDBG grants. One is the downtown stuff and the other is maybe for other people's homes and houses. We did a lot of that, but the town itself never got around to doing any of the town work for all of these buildings, which at that point in time, we're talking more than 10 years ago. We're talking 15 years ago. We had looked at those same houses and they all were needing work. So clearly,
Yeah.
they need more work now. It was a lot of work to get the grant. And what we knew then, which I don't know if it's still, and we can talk about it later, I put it on later in the agenda too. One of the things that was really important was CDBG grants. There were 5 people across the state who were supportive in their area for people who got CDBG grants. So we had that person helping us, and trying to get things done. And the first time we hadn't. So you couldn't get any place if you didn't have that. We learned a few things. I don't know if there's still things that are true. The government has changed a lot since then. So it could be everything is different now than it used to be. But those are areas that we could look at and make sure that we get whatever forces are around.
I know when I was looking it up, once you have a blighted area, they really do support you because she wants, like working with banks to do abandons, if there's a foreclosure, the bank should be making sure that that house is upkept and stuff. So it gives us a little bit more, and I think it opens up a little bit more grants.
I think it really did. I think part of what was happening for us back then is we had a lot of support from CPA and those kind of groups. We didn't from the town administration. And so that, I think having the town administration supporting us is going to be an important thing. So starting with council is a really good place to start. My questions. Kevin, do you have
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's sure. Couple of things. Again, we had, entertained this before with downtown revitalization before we dissolved it. We had met with Bob Ruley, the discussion of the term blighted and what that means, and is it going to have a negative repercussion to the surrounding areas, which one of the councils brought up at our last meeting. And I, from what I've gathered, it's just, again, a designation to open up the potential for grants. It's not going to affect people's property values and things of that nature. As we said, an inventory needs to be done to figure out which properties would apply for the assistance of these grants type of thing once the inventory is done. But you have to designate an area as a blighted area, and that's going back to a couple of edits I think we had made in the past, and they're not here again, but it should be blighted, not blight area. But ultimately, I do think it's a good direction to go with to get the potential grant funding to help make some of these improvements in these areas. And again, from what I've learned, I don't believe it affects, the property values per se of any one property, but if it's within a particular area. Again, it's just allowing that mechanism to happen for the grant funding, and we've just designated an area. That's not like it's publicized. This, downtown is blighted or anything along these lines. Again, unless someone tells me differently, that's what I've learned, with what our discussion so far, and that's what Mr. Ruley shared when we had him here at our meetings in the past. So as far as I'm concerned, I would support this. The other question was just the areas. I know we had discussions whether the areas should be as broad as they are, or they should be more narrowed down. Going back to, again, what Mr. Ruley said, I think they designated these areas appropriately. A lot of it, is everything around the downtown area, extending, way down Plymouth Street, Main Street to High Street, Route 18, south, going down to at least the, populated areas that we have. And the other page shows a lot of the areas of the college itself. So we know, again, that, the college itself isn't blighted, but there's going to be some properties around the college that are.
I did check because you had brought that up. So I went on the GS map and all those little houses that are multifamilies and stuff, not owned by the college.
Right,
And
that would be the ones that.
and they need a lot of help. It's all the little roads, but all those roads, I checked them all. And there's a line that you cross over into, but it's not this is family, housings, a lot of them in trustees and stuff like that. And if you drive by, like I have to every day to go to home, some of those balconies, I mean, I just pray when I go by that it stands up. So some of those places are gonna be out.
Yeah, a lot of those are rented to college students and certainly don't want to have, instances that happen in other areas where too many kids are on the deck and the deck collapses and so on, or things along those lines, or make sure they're living in
Yeah,
proper housing. I've heard some stories too of some current housing in town. It's been kind of tough, but
Yeah.
these kids are getting, crammed into these houses to keep it affordable, but they're getting charged pretty high rates as well. So, but anyway, that's, another story. But again, we just at least want to make sure that the houses are safe.
yeah.
And that,
And some of them now are with families, so you have little kids, so you want to make sure everyone's safe.
Yes. Anything else? Do we want to move this for?
well, as far as again, just the maps, I believe, they're fine as they've been developed. Again, we talked about maybe narrowing the scope in some areas, but at this point, I think we'll just leave them as is, and then the inventory process will obviously get more properties involved. But the concern, I think, what we were talking about before, we said 25%. So with this larger area, does it make it more difficult to get to a 25% level versus if you narrowed it down to a more specific area that has a certain amount of housing and has troubles, then it might be easier to get to the 25% level. So that's the only concern I had about the size of the district. So again, it might have to come back and be narrowed down if, what we've approved in these areas, we can't get to that 25% number on the inventory situation. So that might have to be added to that more.
My impression that we'll get to the 25%. Being somebody who already walked spent 4 months walking that whole area, deciding what it was, or just putting out what it was, and we had no problem getting to the 25%. And I don't know that we went even at this much in the area.
Right.
So I
Well, I would hate to stop at the 25% because that area that I'm fairly familiar with really needs to be
Yes.
addressed.
yes.
Yeah, and I think it's just about minimum floor, like you need to have 25% as a minimum.
Yeah,
So,
but I just don't
they
want, okay,
become the other.
the downtown is 25% and not down there, because I mean, you gotta remember parents that are college students, families are coming in, and it's not a good look for us.
Exactly,
Yeah, so
exactly.
I have
I agree with you. We should have the bigger area that we can,
Yeah,
the bigger area that.
Yeah.
So do we want to present this to the council at its next meeting?
Yeah, I would make a motion to support the order as written with just the edits of the EDs on the end of blank there. I think we had done that before with the other subcommittee, but it just wasn't in this particular copy. But I would
yeah, we
support.
changed the code order to, up to the zoning
Oh,
for maps A and B.
okay.
So I know we did that amendment last outcome.
Okay, so that was done.
So I'll second.
Okay. So, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
And Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes.
But I would be willing to be a co-sponsor of this because Johnny's name was on it, and that will be at the council level, correct, Kevin?
Yeah, at least since Mary is still here, she, since it was originally co-sponsor, she could still be the sole sponsor of it since
Okay.
Johnny's not here.
But if you want a co-sponsor, it's downtown, it's my district, and I would be there. Having been on the committee before, if that's clear.
When it comes back in front of the council, if those
Yep.
motions want to be made.
Yep.
At that time.
So you're willing to be a co-sponsor?
Yeah,
With Mary?
because they have to remove Johnny's.
Yeah, Johnny was the co-sponsor. This was my order.
Mary did good work.
Yes, that was my.
Okay. So if we need it, thank
Yep.
you. If we don't, thank you. Okay, so next is our zoning ordinance for Central Square property maintenance standards. comments?
This was given to me by, President Murphy. So I had gone through some of it because this was originally, John's. So the only thing that, first page I think is fine, it's the second page. That, under D, I would take out signage R in writing because we already have zoning for all that. And the historical, I would amend that. So it's, I would amend it to all repairs and maintenance must be pre-approved by the historical district committee. And take out the rest. And then on F, administrative enforcement, that's already in zoning in a whole different section from all this other stuff. So I would take all F out because that's already in our zoning.
Okay,
And under E, I would, the first word says number one, I would get rid of to the extent feasible. I would just write all repairs and maintenance must be pre-approved by the historical district committee. And then get rid of number two, because everything's under them. But the first page seems okay. I don't know if anybody else has any.
Kevin, Lenny?
Again, we had this in front of us too with the downtown revitalization. We had brought in the building inspector to discuss it because the concerns was enforceability. And he had concerns as well at the time. Again, enforcement penalties is definitely written in zoning already, but just the manpower right now in that department is awfully thin, and enforcement of this I do feel will be difficult. And I don't want to put more on the plate of the building inspector than it already has, because also with our CED department being reduced to a low level now, I know he's picked up extra responsibilities with that. So my overall concern is creating this amendment without the ability to enforce it. And again, anything, you put forth, unless you can enforce it, it's not going to be really worth the paper it's written on. So I don't know if the timing is ideal on this, just because of the way we sit as a town and our departments right now. I do think, again, what Johnny brought up was good, and how Mary's taking the ball and run with it. I know as we potentially get more things in line with grants for the downtown revitalization, things of that nature, then I would think at some point
Unknown caller.
this could maybe at that point come forward. Now, I just think for us to introduce this now and to put it into practice is gonna put, number one, property owners in a tougher spot without us being able to give them potentially any type of grant support that we could get for them. And then again, just the enforcement of it. I mean, all of a sudden, you or I or any person in town says, I don't like the way this building looks, and calls it, the building inspector, go and check this one out, and based on what we're putting down here, hey, your walls you're flaking your paint, I want you to paint these walls right now, or something along those lines. That's a concern I have with doing this right now. I think a little bit down the line, I think would be better introduced when we get a few more ducks in a row when it comes to our town departments, and when we potentially can get some more facade improvement programs and grant funding to help some of these property owners here in downtown. I just want to put something forward right now that's going to potentially create some conflict for property owners and force some of the things that they're not ready to do. I don't know, it's warranted and it's needed. I'm just concerned about the timing right now, especially with the building inspector's office being.
I do understand what you're saying, but I looked it up, and Massachusetts says that on Article 89, that it provides the power to write rules. The town can write rules. So this is like the beginning of it. And state law and codes, there's building maintenance, life safety, and even on local. So we have, most of these are leased agreements, and Massachusetts says if it's a tenant versus a landlord duties, that commercial leases, most tenants are responsible for day-to-day upkeep and inside space cleaning. Owners usually handle structural repair, but even if it says it, if it's a safety thing, Massachusetts says that we can have the landlord must take steps. So I know we don't have anybody, like we're really busy, but I don't think it should stop us from, going forward because, you know, we have authority for bricks sagging, orange, damaged roofs, broken windows, or structure hazards. So the Massachusetts Building Code really gives us, a lot that we can do, enforce it. So even if we're not enforcing it, we can send a letter to them that this is our law, this is the Massachusetts law. So at least we can start notifying them that we're fixing up. Because, I mean, I know Mr. Casanova Davis sat down with the owners. So, I mean, even if we don't have someone that we can say, oh, could go down and do that, we can start sending out letters and say, you know, based on Massachusetts law, you know, this is wrong, we need to, you know, and we can send it to the tenant and the owner. We need to at least start, even if we can't have the manpower to completely enforce it. But I think it's a good direction. I think Johnny wrote it well, and it gives the basics. It's not like we're coming after you, doing this, or, you know, it gives us at least some power and some structure that we can now send out letters from Massachusetts in our town, you know, stating our zoning. And we want to keep our businesses, but I mean, we can't keep going like this. So we need to start.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just, like I say, I do think it's a good piece of legislation to guide, you know, downtown businesses. You know, again, I'm just concerned about the timing. I think we're maybe, you know, 6 months to a year away where we can hopefully get some other ducks in a row to help get downtown going on, and then at the same time incorporate this while we're doing that. And again, I'd like to see, you know, us as a town get the downtown business together and let them know what our plans are for revitalization, what grants might be in place or what we're looking to get. And at the same time, while we're having that discussion, say, okay, now we're looking at, you know, putting the zoning ordinance amendment in there where we want to make sure your businesses are up to snuff. You know, again, it mostly addresses the outside, not so much the inside, as you mentioned, tenants. So tenants usually will take care of the inside for what they need, but the business owners, the property owners are more responsible for the outside of the building and things of that nature. Again, I like it as far as what it is and what it does. I'm just concerned about the timing. So my only thought process was, instead of us as a subcommittee referring it back to the council right away for a vote to put into practice, we could potentially hold it here for a little while, buy a little bit more time, and to get some other things in place. And then, you know, once we do have those things in place, as a subcommittee, we can refer it back when we're ready to vote on it and put it into place for the town.
My concern about that is that's what we've been doing, and that's why this town is still having this. So I think we should move it forward. We can work with it on the town council. Mr. Casanova Davis will be there. He can tell us what he talked about with the, you know, the owners. We can hold it in the town council. We don't have to do action. At least it's there. We're discussing it, and we can move it forward. I don't want to keep it here. I mean, I've been here since 2015. Nothing's been done there.
Well,
So we can't have our rose in a duck. We have to just kind of plow through and work as we go. Otherwise, we're not getting anything done. And that's how I feel. I'm frustrated. You know, I like to come to downtown. I don't. I can't park. There's nothing, you know, it's difficult. I have to park in the library, take my life in my hands to get across the street.
Well, I understand, and I agree with you on all that aspect of things. I don't think this addresses that portion. I
But
think
it
we
gets
have
it going. We never talk about it. We haven't done anything. So this one, at least.
those are the parts I think needs to be in place first: parking, safety, travel.
But Mr. Casanova's already put flashing lights on. He's talking about with the transportation, the things. I can't wait, as we can do two things. We can work on this, get this up while we're working on the other stuff. We have to work together and move it forward together.
So I just give you, for instance, so, you know, one of these buildings over here that, you know, the outside's pretty dilapidated. I'm sure there's a lot of rotted wood, obviously it needs paint.
Right.
So if we put this in place, and then, so where does the town go from there? Building inspector goes over there and says, yeah, this is looking poor. I need you to get an estimate. You need to spend $100,000 to upgrade the front of your building. Where is that?
This is working well.
And what do we enforce as far as a fine and to that property owner if they don't
Well,
get
that's
that
other
job
things we
done?
can work as together. You know, we can work with the planning board and the zoning board and that, but we have to get it going. So if we get this going, then we can work on this more. And with the Blythe area, then we have more enforcements. But we keep saying, well, we're gonna wait, and we get nothing done. This thing can stay in the town council for a couple months while we work on it. We can have the zoning come in, we can have the building inspector, we can have people come in, and even the planning board, and work on it at the town council level. So everyone's involved, the residents and all the councils. That's my thing. Move
Yeah.
forward, let's get going.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just thinking, like I said, I like to see the blighted area get designated first, and based on that designation, what can we get for grants? And once those, potential grants are in place, then we can gather the property owners, let them know what's available. At the same time, this can get introduced in the whole situation, so it doesn't put them in a bad situation. But I know we have a downtown property owner here. I'm curious to get her comments at the end and see what her thoughts are.
I mean, we can suspend the rules and have her talk right now. I'm all for that.
Let me say one thing.
Yes.
Let me say one thing.
Yes.
As a former town employee, I look at this. Our whole has changed. Many people have lost their jobs. We don't have as many people working here as we did when I was here. We have our building inspector taken on 5 hours of work that were used to be Bob Rui's work. We're looking at, I don't know if imposing is the right word, but developing a lot more work for them to do. That's specifically what it is, which is good, which I appreciate, and I think it's a good thing for the town. I don't know that the town has the capacity to hold it. I'm worried about that with the capacity that we've lowered on our employment. And wonder, and I believe that the town manager isn't thrilled with the lowering of our capacity. That was something that had to happen so we could continue to pay for the schools and so we could make our budget work. Hopefully we're going to be able to somehow fix that somehow. But I worry that this is going to really intrude on it, that we're going to be asking our.
I just don't know if he's gonna have the bandwidth to
Right.
add that to his pile.
Right,
And
that's the thing I'm concerned about. That's the thing
And if we
I'm
go ahead
concerned about.
and push this forward and he doesn't have the bandwidth to go out there and enforce what we put out there, then like I said, what's the sense of doing it?
That's exactly it. Since I know how the head of our building department is a hard worker. He's a hard worker and he does good work. And we've kept him at the same amount of work by giving him 5 hours extra from what Ruley would have done. So we've kept him at a full-time work, which he's always been good at. But we're adding 2 new things. I mean, if we add these 2 things, we're adding 2 new things to his pile of work that he needs to do. When he doesn't have other people in there to send out, do the work. Doesn't.
So I mean, we are going to be hiring and filling up us. We can't do that, that department empty. So we do have it in the budget. They will hire. It doesn't mean if we're moving this forward into the town council that we have to approve it and put it right on the books. It means that we can work with the building, the planning, we can bring them before the whole council. I feel like this is something the whole council should be working on.
Yeah.
We can hold it for as long as we want, but we can be working on it and asking committees to come before us and help us work on it. If it takes 6 months, whatever, at least we're gonna pick up time. Yeah, we can say, okay, we can add to it, take away from it. But I don't want to see it get stuck in this. And I think all the council should have a say and to be able to vote on it, and residents should be able to come up and speak on it. So we should move it forward. We don't have to put it on anybody right away.
I can see that and I can approve of that. What I worry about is just putting a big pile
Yeah.
on the employees right now when we are really moving well on water, all of that sort of thing. Everything of that
Yeah.
is starting to come together. So we're going to see the accomplishments there. And maybe when we get to the end of that, then we have time and space.
So we can recommend it to the town council. When we get to town council, we'll say, we want to work on this, make it thorough, take our time doing it, because we really don't have anyone to enforce it. But at least by the time town manager hires people, this will be set and ready to go. And everybody will already have their opinion about it. We'll have residents.
I can see
I
that.
just don't know the process from a council level, how that happens, because everything is usually referred up from subcommittee, is read, we have discussion, we make edits, and then obviously at that point, we put it to a vote. What type of vote do we put it to that we don't necessarily table it, we just, hold it at a council level for an indeterminate amount of time? I'm just trying to think of the process and the mechanism
No,
we
we'll put
do
it
to
on
do
the,
that.
we'll put it on the agenda. We'll talk about how, we want to go through this. We want to pick apart if we should add stuff or not, because it's a huge thing for our downtown. I mean, we've held things at the town council before because we want to, the lawyer speak into it. We want the zoning to speak into it before we vote. So it's not unusual to hold things while we gather more information. But here, it's just going to get stifled. But at least at the town council, we can say, well, we're not sure about that. Can we get, the planning board or the zoning in, let residents, we can have a public hearing or open it up so that the residents can discuss it.
Well, as you mentioned that, I think if you want to incorporate planning board feedback, then I would say we would take this, hold it at our level, have a joint meeting with the planning board, get their feedback on it. And from there, send it back to the council. I don't know, again, at this point, if we're ready to send it right back to the council as is. If you want to get the feedback of the zoning board per se and or the planning board, then I think we should potentially at our next joint meeting with the planning board, put this on the agenda and have a discussion.
Well, I mean, I don't know why we're worrying
Interrupt
about.
for a moment. You
What?
can't, you cannot, as a subcommittee, put it to, the planning board. It has to go back to council and then referred to planning.
All right, thanks, Dad.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know where the concern comes because we don't say that who's gonna enforce it, the amount of money that's gonna enforce it, or anything like that. It's no different from the zonings we have right now in enforcement. It says enforcement and penalties, but it doesn't say how much, whatever, any, it doesn't apply anything, and this doesn't apply anything either. It just says we're gonna enforce it. But do we enforce everything in town right now? No, we don't.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. This is an empty piece of paper if it's not enforceable. That's my.
But it's
ultimate
on there, so
concern.
we can send letters out, and let them know that there's an ordinance and we're gonna start enforcing stuff.
Can we
So-
change it from here? Can we change it and add to it from here before we send it back to the council?
No, we can recommend.
We can make
Yeah,
recommendations,
that's
yeah,
all we
any
recommend.
edits or, would have to be done at the council, yes.
It seemed that the changes would have to be done at the council level.
Yeah.
We
Have to
can't-
be voted
yeah.
on. We can vote on
We can-
edits here and say, this is what
We
we're
can put
recommending
it-
to send
But I
back.
mean, our building inspector right now does what he can do. He doesn't do everything. There's a lot he can't do because he's a one-man thing. So this is not gonna be any different. This is just setting the foundation of what we're gonna expect from the businesses and the owners. That's all. We're not saying that we're gonna find them. It is nowhere that says we're gonna find them. We're just saying these are the laws, these are the rules. So we're getting to a point where when we do get employees, we can enforce this. Or if we feel like it, we can send out a letter and say, hey, that thing's hanging, you gotta do this by Massachusetts, we have that order. So it's not putting more on anybody.
Did you say earlier, Mary, you wanted to eliminate section F? Because this obviously was what deals with enforcement and penalty, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
because that whole thing is already in our zoning. So he can enforce a lot of these things already. But it doesn't say how much the fees are or anything like that. And he's doing what he can. So it's not gonna make any difference if we do this, but we can send out letters. We can let know the owners and the lease that we're gonna take action. And when we can, we will.
So when we say we don't mean we.
No, the
Yeah, I
town,
mean, we-
I mean the whole
We mean
town.
the employees who are already maxed out with trying to get done what they need to get done.
They would only be sending out if we decided to enforce something. We could say something's really bad. And so now we could send out a letter and say, look, according to this order, you're violating this. And it'd be a letter going out. That's it. That would all be no more than what he can do right now. I mean, he has a bunch of stuff that he could enforce all around town, but he can't get into it. But we send out letters. We send out letters if we find out a dog doesn't have a license. It's no more. We'll send out a letter and we'll let them know, according to our order, this is a violation. And that's it. And we are gonna get a CD, he's gonna hire people in that department. Because they were in the budget. For next year. Or even like Shane's.
He's hiring people for the CED department, not necessarily the building department. He's replacing
Right.
the CED director.
So, I mean,
And they're gonna hire who they need within that department, but I don't think there's any additions or subtractions right now.
no, but the
building
director, if town manager tells his employee who's the director, hey, can you send out letters for this? And then he can do it because, our bill inspector can't. But keep holding stuff back and not moving forward.
We don't know when he's going to hire for that department or what exactly he's gonna be asking of that.
I know, but this thing's not saying that someone has to do it. It's just saying that we can do it. We can do it. Just like
So you're-
right now, the ordinance, all this enforcement and penalties that are listed, he can do it, but if he doesn't have time, he doesn't do it. It's no different. It's gonna be the exact same thing for the downtown. These are the laws. If we can send a letter, we will. If we can't, we won't. It's not saying that he has to, nowhere in here it says he has to do anything.
No.
I just hate to sit around and
Yeah.
we move it forward, so at least
I
we can
hear,
discuss it.
I hear you, but I hear you both.
Yeah.
Even though you're on my deaf ear, I'm still hearing it.
I'm on the wrong side.
That's why I come early.
All right, strategy now, strategy.
Is it, okay, let our
Yeah,
other
suspend
councilors
the
speak.
rules.
Yeah,
let
just
the
suspend our
public speak.
rules and let Wendy speak.
Okay, so, and I have been here through now I'm on the third town manager. I'm still looking at a building where the coffee shop used to be that has a boarded up window that it's falling apart.
It's been sold now, so.
That's great, but and I've been told by two previous town managers, can't do anything about it. I don't want to see that continue to happen. I get asked about it all the time from people. I walk by it all the time. Talk about a blighted area right in the center of our downtown. I agree with Mary that we should move this forward and start looking at it. I think as a council and as a community, we should find a way somehow to get that building inspector at least a part-time assistant to enforce some of this stuff. Because, and I know it takes money, we all gonna talk about that whole word down the line, but we can't continue to exist as a town without staffing in order to do this. I understand what Kevin's saying, but I've been on the council long enough to know that certain things die in committees and they never get out of committees and they don't move forward. And it just, I lived with this in the other community for years. And I don't want to continue to live with it.
Can I just say what Mark just said, seeing that it's being sold, right? So if we have this in place, we can give this to the owner. This is what we expect. At least would have, if nothing else.
Mhm.
So that's all I got.
I'm also gonna abandon our rules and let Dr. Hunt speak. Oh, Donna, speak first.
I'll speak both as a resident and a property owner downtown. As a resident, I'm getting more and more embarrassed with the look of our downtown. I've lived here my entire life and it's embarrassing. As a property owner, it's frustrating to see properties around ours deteriorate, and that lowers the value of our property if other people aren't maintaining theirs. It's not an incentive to any property, and I've spoken to several of them around town who do take care of their property, and they're frustrated because it's like, okay, why should I do this or that if no one else is going? I know, speaking for ourselves, we've spent a lot of money the last 12 months, more than we bring in rental income to do some maintenance, some roofing, some siding. We've got a lot more to go. It's counterproductive to not have some type of enforcement for the areas. And I'm not talking about huge things, but some small things, whether it be signing code violations that have existed for umpteen years, particularly on the east side of the common. That seems to me to be simple to enforce with a fine, with a letter. You don't have to go up there yet. Take a picture, and I know it's been done, but it's just not happening. So I would like to see some enforcement. I don't know where permit fees go other than to our general budget. I'm assuming that's where they go. I shouldn't make that assumption. But perhaps if we find, a collection of fees that amount to maybe $50,000, we could hire a part-time zoning enforcement officer or a part-time, whatever you call it, CED person or somebody that has the authority and the knowledge to enforce. But I think we have to start somewhere, even if it's small. And if there's enforcement and fines that get issued, that word's going to spread pretty quickly. And I'm not talking about making somebody spend $100,000 on the building, but a start. It's bad. We all see it. And I think we have to encourage people to want to keep their property up. And you don't do that if you don't enforce adjacent property
And
rules.
I totally agree with you. I think my biggest concern is the enforceability of it. Anything that you put on paper, if you want someone to follow the rules, you gotta have someone to enforce the rules.
I agree. And that's why, I'm wondering if permit fees could be, redirected with the town manager's approval at, for 40, 50, I don't know what the amount would be for a part-time inspector or enforcement officer. But I think we have to do something. Or it's gonna just clear it.
Thank you.
And again, if they're, I know some of the property owners are out of town owners there. They don't live in town, they're just trying to, get whatever rent that they can and move forward. And that's the unfortunate part. People don't care about their buildings. And whether again, we'll have to go back, and as you said, Mary, if there's specific fines listed in the zoning, I'm trying to remember. I remember seeing some in the past, but maybe that was from other things. But if there's not specific enforcement penalties, and I think that's something that has to be reviewed as well. First offense is this, second offense is this, third or more offenses is this. But it just can't be, something arbitrary that, whoever's enforcing it
No.
that day decides, all right, today's 100, tomorrow's 500, I don't know. It's gotta be
Because this
something.
will be the foundation and we can build on that. So you write up our order, then these are the fines for different things. So this is the foundation and then we can continue.
Well, if those fines, that's what I'm saying. If those fines aren't there, then I think that's another thing. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, Carl.
Yeah, Carlton on Austin Street. I have a lot of thoughts about what's going on. First of all, I hear the amendments that Councilor McGrath has recommended. I think they're excellent because we do have zoning for that. I think this is an aspirational order. It is not a regulatory order. As an aspirational order, I think it should go forward to the council to start to process of being able, like Councilor McGrath has said, to start the process of getting something on the books down the road. Yes, we don't have the people to enforce everything, but we're not talking enforcement alone, if this is an aspirational. And also, I'll finish that. Historic buildings are eligible to apply for community preservation money, preservation purposes. Thank you.
Sure.
And with that, I would just say, that I don't know, it's not written so much to be aspirational, it's designed to be an update to the zoning ordinance. It's an amendment to the zoning, so it is going into the zoning of the town, so it will be something that's rules to follow, not so much, something to aspire to. That's my other concern.
Well, I mean, the enforcement penalties we have now doesn't say much. And it's not, a lot of them are not enforced, so it doesn't say how much for what fines. And some of them are forced and some are not. So I mean, it's gonna be no difference. I mean, just send out a
I'm just
letter.
concerned about the efficacy of it then, if that's the case.
That's how it's been. Look at your
I don't
zoning.
want to create empty legislation.
No, but that way we can say, okay, we don't have it in our zoning now. And so with this, we can say, okay, now we should list maybe or offer this, do another one for fines for what? So this will get us going, fixing our zoning.
I would say, I mean, again, on the crux of it, I'm not against it whatsoever. I definitely, like what's in there and how it guides people. I'm just concerned about timing and concerned about enforcement, but I think,
Oh,
he had a comment. I wanted to let him speak.
oh, yeah, thank you, James Walsh, Crescent Street. Just a couple of thoughts that came up. I was thinking about this property in particular. I think it was last fall when we really started looking at that when they were coming back with their lodging license. And if I remember correctly, the result of that was that, oh, there's nothing on the books. So we can't withhold the lodging license from them because they're technically not doing anything wrong. So I wonder if that's maybe like a baby step of, we don't need a town employee. We, like at the council level, could say, we're going to withhold this, or we're going to issue it with conditions that you bring this up to spec. I don't know. Like maybe that's a way around it. Or not a way around it, but a kind of an interim, movement forward. The other thing I thought about, building off of what Dr. Hunt said, if that property owner wanted to put their building on the National Register, they could get 40% tax credits for their, for any work that they do that brings it up to snuff. And then that wouldn't be it would be our tax dollar, but not local, So maybe that could be a way to push, because I also understand, even though it really upsets me to see that, I do understand, it's a tough economy, like everybody's trying their best. So if there are ways we could try to carrot and the stick. And just the last thing, I just worry with this build, that building's it's like our first school building. It's a really beautiful, it needs some paint, but it is a beautiful building. And I just think about, I think about the Enos house on Main Street, and I just thought, oh, that's going to be there forever. That's such a beautiful old house. And it just takes a few years of wood rot, and it's, you can't do anything with it now. So I just really worry. I just worry about it. So I know it's a really tough decision, but I wonder if there's a way we could kind of phase it in that way.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I like the idea that it's at least on the books.
Yeah,
So it's something.
what about you? Like the idea that it's at least on the list.
I mean, again, want to see a unified response to sending this back to the council to be worked on. I'm not going to just be standing on an island here, stomping my feet that there's no way to enforce this and things of that nature. But I just, like I say, my concerns are, I don't want us as a subcommittee and or as a council to put forth legislation that's just not enforceable or is difficult to enforce. Because like you said, we've got a whole bunch of zoning ordinances that might, people might not be following now because we don't have the resources to enforce that zoning. So it's, again, having it on paper, sure, it's a good idea, but whatever the repercussions are, as you mentioned, a lodging house, most of the time they're going in there before licensure anyway, checking on, fire, code and safety and all that type of things, but there can still be a hellhole in there too at the same time, as well as the outside. So at least this would address some outside areas, at least doesn't really address the inside. Again, I would just, we can refer it back as far as, like I say, at this point, I would say, we refer it back for, for discussion and edits and then continue to work on it at a council level before we take it up for a vote. But I would not want to see us take this up for a vote for a little bit of time, just until we have the ducks in place and the language right and enforceability potentially in place. And that we're going to have discussions with the town manager on to see what the bandwidth is to add that, or where the financing could come to cabin enforcement. It's the same thing with parking enforcement. The police department doesn't have the budget to have a parking enforcement officer. That can generate some revenue in the downtown area as well. So that's just my biggest concern. But as far as the language goes, if we want to push it forth with the edits that Mary is suggesting, and we can discuss it further at the council level, I've got no problem.
Well, one of the big things I look at, Kevin, is at least it's on the books so we can enforce it. Like if the new owners come in where that bakery is, at least we can send them and say, this is our laws on it. So at least the threat's there. And so we could write a letter, even if it's one thing, someone take the time to write at least a letter. But if this was sent out, at least they know. So if something really happens, or we get someone, or they go against something that's big, at least they know it's on the books and we can enforce it. So that's my thing. Because right now, like Donna said, they're doing whatever they want. I watch them. They come before the district committee or commission and they show signs and they'll tell them, you can't do blinking lights. And then they go do it. So at least if we have it on the books, now we can start saying, okay, we're going to write a letter. We're going to send this out. You know what I mean? And, town manager hopefully can do the best he can as asking someone to do it when it comes to right down to it. Otherwise, everyone's just doing whatever they want.
Well,
So it's difficult, but
Exactly. I don't know. That's all I got.
Is there anything that we should be adding into it before we send it back to the council? Like an actual
Well, again, Mary, do you want to make some formal motions on your edits here? And then again,
Well, I know we can't edit in here,
yeah,
but I mean, if we add anything, I would add like having talking to the building inspector and asking, like, has anybody written up actual fines, the amount of fines and stuff like that? So it's something that maybe we could ask ahead of time, there's, the building inspector, or whoever comes up with the ideas of zoning fines that could come to the meeting when we put this on. I mean, we don't have to address this like,
Just ask for him to be present at that.
yeah,
That meeting.
we could ask ahead of time, like, what kind of idea would you have about, how did they come up with the fines? I have no idea.
well, again, I'm in advance of a meeting. I mean, with you being your legislation, just have a talk with the building inspector and get his thoughts on it.
I'll do that.
And what would be what he would think would be the best way to come forward with, either establishing fines or editing fines, or what fine system does he currently work with, and things of that nature, and have that information to discuss at the council level.
Yeah, maybe I'll, once I get them down and he looks at them all and all that, I can ask him to come to the meeting that we're having.
I think it is an important thing to do. I didn't want to sound like I was.
No, I agree. I'm the same boat. I think it's important legislation. I just don't want to create empty legislation that's not enforceable.
It worries me right now is what capacity we have to,
And then the timing of introducing.
yeah, and do it.
Well, we'll encourage us to do the other enforcement penalties because there's nothing there for us to force. It's the same thing. It's on the
Like I
books.
say, get that information from the,
I know, but
from
it's
the
an
building
empty,
inspector.
it's an empty law right now,
Yeah.
and it's on the books. But at least it's on the books, and it's up to the building inspector to give a fine or not to give a fine. That's pretty much how it has.
I think there's something listed somewhere about like, I want to say it's, I don't know, 50, 100, and,
I think they would, if you wanted to do a
but I
fine,
just,
because I do have the zoning.
like, well, again, yeah, this doesn't incorporate fines, so I wouldn't, introduce that into this particular amendment, but that would have to be something separate.
Right.
But I'd get that feedback from the building inspector and see if he feels like that's warranted, and if not, we can create that legislation. to go
I can
on.
ask that we refer it to the town council, but not have it until the August one.
I think that's a good
And you'll
idea.
give us
And
time,
do a little bit of
research.
research on it,
Oh,
maybe even perhaps with the town manager.
Oh,
See
yeah.
what he's thinking about when he's planning to replace people whose jobs aren't anymore, and to figure out what he's really thinking, so that we aren't working contra. So we're working together.
Okay.
Are the rules still suspended or not?
Yeah, sure, the rules is still suspended.
Just hearing what everybody's just been saying, maybe it is worthwhile to hold it here for one more meeting and maybe gather information from the different parties as well as the zoning board informally and the planning board. And then so that you have all the i's dotted and the t's crossed before it goes to the council. They might have some input on that.
Thanks. I feel the same. I feel the same way. I feel like we're kind of
You're almost there.
on the edge of figuring out what all's going on, and let's not interfere with it. Let's work together as we change some of the
You know, it
stuff.
goes to the council with all the questions, the answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I give lifeline of the zoning?
What-
Sorry, Debbie, you broke up?
The lifeline of a zoning order, when you send it back to town council, they have to refer it to planning board, CDPC, or joint public hearing.
So we'd have a joint hearing
That's
down the
twice.
line.
So
Okay.
it's
Still-
this can't be heard at anything until August, the end of August.
So you want to hold it for one more meeting?
Well, I would say let's do some homework and talk about it maybe as a subcommittee one more time, get that information that we're talking about. And then, like I said, it goes back to the council and then it's gonna get referred to a joint hearing between the plan.
I'd like to see it held for one more meeting. There was talk about having another meeting this month. Have we decided, has the council decided we are not having another meeting this month?
I know, but I don't believe we just have them on the books.
We decided to put it on the books.
No, I'm saying there's only one scheduled council meeting this month.
Yes, okay, we weren't adding one, even though we
Yes.
talked about it.
We
didn't
had that
decide
extra
to do
meeting we
that.
did
Okay.
last week for.
All right, that's, yes, then August. I would have said August instead of saying the next meeting, because I was worried that that might come up too early.
All right, so we'll just hold it here. I'm good for that for 1 more.
I'll make a motion to continue this to our next.
A second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, and thank you, Mary, for all your work on this. Kevin, thank you for all your input, and the audience, thank you for your input. I've got, I don't see anything for old business. I did add a couple things for additional discussions. So one of them is the townhouse. Just to keep you up to date on the things that are happening over there. Booth and Associates have been hired to do the historic assessment of it, which is fairly incredible. Booth and Associates have done, they're the ones who did the external rehabilitation of that building. About, I think that was around 2012 too. I'm not sure when it was, but I know that I was on that committee. And also redid the roof, which I was town clerk and I was responsible for getting that done so that the exterior of that building is holding it together.
So could I ask, Merrily, what is Booth and Associate? What are they gonna do
They're doing an assessment
inside?
of the interior. Yes,
To determine what's historic and should stay if we were to remodel.
exactly. I mean, they're very interesting things when you go walking through it with them. Some of the stuff that was done in the 1800s when the building was built, they'll look up at the ceiling and they'll say, oh yeah, that's the forever. That's gonna be there down in the basement, looking up at the ceiling down in the basement. This wood, as it was back then, is forever wood. It's gonna last. And then they might look at things up in the hallway saying, oh, this was put up in 1924, it's fallen apart. Like that doesn't need to be kept. So it's that kind of an assessment of when we get around to doing it, what really has to be kept and what really could go. So that will be, and they are wonderful. Booth and Associates are terrific, have been really good for us over all the years.
And who's paying for that assessment? Is that a? town
That's a
expense?
CPC,
CPC?
CPA.
CPA expense, okay.
Okay. And
We're doing a
then
Study right now.
the Mass Development Programs System Replacement Grant, plus the CPA match. This is Adeline's. No, that isn't Adeline's. It is Adeline's.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Adeline's
CPA is
grant,
gonna match it?
but it has to. I mean,
Okay.
the grant isn't good without a match. So I think it's $8,000 of each.
May I speak to that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, there's two different grants. Historical assessment of the interior by Booth and Associates, who are historic architects. The second grant was through the Cultural Council, and that the title is what was applied for and asked by Adeline Counselor Ellenberg. Thank you, sir. And that has to do with some of the structural, but it's electrical, it's mechanical, it's bathrooms, it's accessibility, and they're gonna look at that. One of the things that I don't know who's gonna look at it, but what's the weight bearing capacity of that building? So that's what we're trying to do there. So those are two separate ones. The state gave an $8,000 grant from their funding, but it's $8,000. It requires an $8,000 match from the town. And we have a letter from the town manager saying that they would like to have the match. And the CPC has voted for that, but the state needs to know that the town has the money to do the match so they can finish doing some things. So and you guys will have to accept the grant, which I hope will be on your agenda next meeting. And that will take a month because you have to read it twice. And once that happens, then we will actually see the contract from the state. So it's a work in progress. Any questions?
Yeah, will we see exactly what the grant's gonna be used for? Because you said maybe weight bearing. So we'll see exactly.
I've asked for the grant requirements, and I've been told that until the council accepts the grant,
Okay,
we won't get that.
okay, thank you.
But in order for the CPC to vote to approve, using admin funds to approve the match, we won't move forward until we actually see the contract from the state.
Okay.
Is that complex enough for everybody? Okay, and so then my question under that is we've got these things kind of hanging over us and what's next. And so to think about that, to me, having been in charge of that for several years now and trying to figure out what is next is getting all the stuff in there out of there. Because you can't restore that building, the interior part of that building without getting rid of enormous amounts of stuff. So I have a scheduled meeting with the president of the university to talk to him about. They have given us help for that before. They have loaned us a person that they hire to come over and help us really assess everything. And the town never got around to, I've been told by, at that point, the town manager, that yes, we would help with, we pay part of the salary and the university would pay the other part. And the town just never got around to approving that or doing that. And so the person didn't get paid and left and went someplace else. So there are, when you go in there, if you ever went in there, you'll find places where people like Carlton and I went and worked with people, and we have big bunches of boxes that, yeah, these are the ones to be kept. And then there's tons of other stuff that hasn't been sorted, that hasn't been touched. And must be. We can't hear the inside of the building with a whole bunch of stuff left inside it. So that's something that we need to think about, like how are we going to do that? How are we going to manage that? If you have ideas and thoughts.
Are you talking about files, mostly files? Didn't Blight started that, and didn't she have the librarian come over and go through some of that?
Yeah, yes, the librarian did some written assessment of things. The person that we hired, the expert from the university, went right in with us and looked at the boxes and said, this is what we can keep, this is what we can't keep. It's very, there are several like cabinets full of stuff that are all everything from certain departments going back to 1950 to 1920. You know,
Are they still readable?
yeah, they're in documents and they're in metal cabinets. And so you have to, and there are reasons that people working here in this building would need those.
Yeah.
You know, when they need to go back and see, like, oh, what did we say in 1924 when we gave them permission to do blah, 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 you know? But then we don't have room to store those things in this building.
I thought we were using the basement of the memorial building.
It's totally filled.
It's,
It has been filled.
so those guys have been going over the employees.
So evidently there was a lot taken over there.
Blight did do that, I guess, Blight did.
So when I was here, we did some of that, like we took everything for the town council.
Yeah.
We got that out and we got that over there. And then other things have been gotten out, but there are lots and lots and lots of documents that when people go to do things here in town, you need to go back and check and see, well, what was done 20 years ago? What was done 30 years ago? You know.
But the archivist was doing the work, but we had the archivist.
Yeah.
There's no archive.
Right,
Right,
we
there's no
don't have an
archivist.
archivist.
I know,
We
but
did keep the archivist long.
Blight sent her over there and she did a lot of work.
I have a suggestion. and I don't know what the town's doing with this, but right next door is a vacant fire department. I don't know if we have a source to get containers without spending a lot of money. I think we should get the containers, put them in each one of the bays in the fire department and put all that stuff in. Get it out of that building, and then that building could be empty.
That's very interesting. I don't know what the interior of the old fire station is.
Yeah.
I don't know if water comes in there. You know, we've been in there before when you had to walk around on the floor.
Yeah.
Not step in the water.
That's why I suggested the container, because it wouldn't be,
A lot of things are already in, file cabinets,
yeah,
waterproof file cabinets, so file cabinets could be moved over there. A lot of it is building department stuff, because that's a lot of the things that take
the maps.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good thought.
And it's right next door.
We can
and
ask
there's a
that.
door, and they can control the access to that building, like they control the town building, and it's across the street, it's nearby, just.
Many other things are in boxes,
Yeah.
cardboard boxes, which maybe if you had them up on a,
You know, the problem is just to work within that building, especially now in the summer, it's gonna be 120 degrees. It's got molds, you know, fire department probably got mold too. So to work on these documents within either one of those buildings is probably not ideal for anyone without a hazmat suit. But I think the discussion needs to be had with the town manager as far as, again, we can't, you know, eventually the fire department's gonna be torn down, but there's no money to do that anytime soon.
Right.
So I'm not sure what the timeline is on that. I agree. I mean, to get at least the inside of the building cleaned out is a good thing. But you know, how much of that paperwork, and you say, does need to be archived and recorded, and then probably, you know, the paper eliminated. So if you got a digital copy of everything, that those ducks gotta put
Right.
well
definitely.
before anything is moved or decided. But I think that's probably a discussion definitely have with the town manager, and obviously with all of our water stuff. I don't think the bandwidth has been there to address that until we kind of get water a little bit more stabilized. But I do think potentially a good time might be to start doing that. Could be the fall when the temperature starts coming down.
Yeah.
It's still reasonable weather to start doing some moving.
I think with the people coming in on grants, we need to move it forward as quickly as possible with it. And since we've done so much work in the past, I mean, we did years of work with sorting things out. I sent a person from the town clerk's office wearing her hazmat suit and everything over there all summer, one summer. So look at all, because everything that had happened for all the plans and everything for building buildings, there were just stacks and stacks of them, and people have to submit sometimes 3 or 4 copies of their plans. So they were all just like wadded up and in there. She sorted everything and kept the original and then put the others in another pile so that those could be gotten rid of. We could keep the original if we needed to make copies of the original. The planning department could have that. All of that was done, and there was another person on staff here in the building who was going to go over and make record of all of that. Not from my department. And that never happened. And the next time we went over, somebody had just crammed everything all together and thrown it all in a mess. So, you know, 3 months worth of really hard work by somebody disappeared.
So people love to go in there because, I mean, right now we're shorthanded employees, but I don't know if you guys want to start like a committee where we can actually work together and get some of that stuff. And if we can't do the fire department, we can always get one of those pods, fill it up, and you can always put it down the DPW if he doesn't want anything up here.
These are things I'd like to talk to the town manager
Okay.
about, and also to the president of the university. And see, see who, when, what, where, and how might we move forward.
Get some of those college kids to.
Yeah, sometimes the kids who are in sororities, you know, have things that they want to do to help out. The university has always,
Yeah.
to me, been incredibly helpful at when I first became town clerk and went over to that building, no one would go in the basement because it was dangerous. It was dangerous. You weren't allowed to go. People were getting sick. People had ear infections, food infections, all sorts of things that were happening. Because when you went down there was black goo about this thick all over the floors. And the town clerk's office had a lot of things stored down there there was a room for us down there. I needed to go down. I called the university and immediately that day they sent people up, cleaned up everything, took it all out and made it relatively safe to go down there. I'm not saying it was completely 100% safe, but it was a lot safer. So I tend to think that
They'll always
they
there
can
for
be
us.
helpful.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
agree.
So speak to them, see what we can do. But I just wanted to keep us all informed at the same level.
And moving forward.
Yeah, and I do think we need to move forward. I mean, I think it was 2010 when we redid the outside of the building.
Mhm.
And the town was thrilled. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but we had the restaurant, the sister and I down the street. And every time people would go in there, they'd say, hey, come up and look at this. And they'd go look at the outside. And people were genuinely excited and happy to have had that done. I'd like to see us move forward and really make it be something that we can use. And so that's that. And the Summer Street Park, I just wanted to let you know that managed to get it done for the end of its grant for June 30th. I think it looks beautiful with the rock wall. And they're gonna have grass behind it. They put a lot of trees in there that are gonna be growing. And just to let you know, the Flora T. Little Park is right next door to it. I happen to be president of Flora T. Little. Mark is on it. And we have a well on our property for the Flora T. Little Park. That's how we keep it growing and everything. There is no water available for the town at the Summer Street Park. So we are going to donate water to that, and they are going to donate to us help to make the Flora T. Little Park fully accessible, handicap accessible and everything by putting in a grading instead of right now when you try to go in there, you have to like walk down a really messy part. They're going to help us grade that up and put a brick walkway around it. The town is providing, they have sources for that. They're going to provide to us. We're going to provide the water.
Is there water for the bathroom?
No, the building is,
That's what I thought, it was closed.
Yeah. The water is for the plants.
The plants.
The plants
Okay.
and the trees and the things that have been planted there to make sure that they can continue. Because otherwise you have a pretty hard time.
Additional funds are gonna be needed to do something with the building. So,
Sometimes something is gonna need to happen to the building.
I mean, the BSU students do a beautiful job painting the outside of different properties.
Mhm.
They should come over and, decorate that building. They have beautiful things on the outside.
I can
The walkways, everything.
Yeah,
I can mention that to Fred when I talk to him next week.
Yeah, they do incredible
Or
work.
I was gonna suggest the same thing, that on the doors that used to be the garage, maybe they could be like a nice mural that has something to do with Bridgewater.
Yeah. I mean, if you go under, they do you walk under the tunnels and
Yeah,
stuff, so they do.
exactly.
Yeah, they do.
It's gorgeous.
Okay, well, I'll
Yeah.
mention that to Fred when I talk to him and see what he has to
Don't
say.
think of-
Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that those things, those feel like CED things to me.
Yeah.
You know, they're part of community and economic development. And so if any of you, if for any of our meetings end up having stuff like that, just let me know so that we keep ourselves informed about what's happening around here.
It's a good idea.
Is there anything else that people want to talk about? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melanie. This was a really nice idea that